Books teach us, they inspire us, they challenge us, and they expand our horizons. Books contain the best thoughts of the greatest minds in history, but the problem is, there are millions to choose from. So what should you invest your time reading? What should you spend your money on? How do you sort through all the bullshit and find the good shit? You let the superior men do the work. Matt and Jay take the best books, pick the most important points, and distill them down to a concentrated 30-minute podcast. We help you find the books you need to read and why you need to read them. You may even learn something. So take out your coffee, tea, a glass of wine, or a good IPA. Sit back, relax, and enjoy. Welcome to the Superior Men Bookcast. And welcome back to the Superior Men Bookcast. Today, without further ado, we are going into The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi. So before we jump into that, my name is Matt, and I am joined here by my fellow co-host and co-conspirator, Jathan.
What is up, everybody? It is time for some rationality in a world of chaos.
Oh my goodness, especially now, right? We could all use a little bit of rationality at this point. All right, so let's go into this. We got Rational Male. That's going to be our book for today. This is published by Rollo Tomassi, published in 2013. This is a cool book. Love this book. I read this book many years ago. I don't know, 4 years ago or so. Cool book. Let's go into what we got here. So let's talk about this book just briefly. So this book covers the sexual objectives, sexual dynamics, the intersex relations between men and women, and really what we're trying to do, or what Rollo Tomassi was trying to do, is to help men understand what the red pill is and unplug from that feminist-centric view of the world, which really Western society.
It is until you start really digging into this book, and some of you guys are familiar with the red pill and familiar with the kind of the Manosphere, and some of you may not be. Some of our female listeners may be like, I don't even know what you guys are talking about right now.
Right.
The real quick overview of the red pill is the reference to the Matrix, where Neo gets the chance to take the blue pill or the red pill. The blue pill sends him back home, and he gets to believe whatever he wants to. Red pill is the truth. And then, Kansas goes bye-bye afterwards. And in a way, it's the perfect metaphor.
And I have two articles on the website where we talk about that. We'll link to them on here, but Introduction to the Red Pill, parts 1 and 2.
Yes. Great articles.
So really what this book is trying to do is really try to teach men about how male-female relations work, how that works, and how to better navigate that world.
So, why do women behave the way that they do? Why do most guys have unsuccessful sexual relationships? And especially over time, and especially how to do the long-term relationship thing successfully. Matt, who will benefit most from this book?
Oh my goodness. So who's really going to get this is any person who wants to see the world as it really is. Any man who has been in a successful or failed relationships, or who wants more and better sex. So who's not going to like this, Jay?
Hardcore feminists. Softcore feminists.
I think we could say that pretty much about all the books we pick on here.
Any kind of feminists won't like this book. I throw some terms out here: white knights, AFCs, and other men who idealize women. Anyone who believes truly in their heart of hearts in a Disney romance.
Oh my goodness.
Anyone who doesn't want to work on themselves or their relationship, and anyone who does not like to have their worldview fucked with, because this will do it.
Yeah, it will. So this book, so I read this book, and this is for me, I could not take in much of this book at a time. I had to read it in small pieces. It's very difficult to read. It's dense. The font is small. Like, I mean, there's a lot. Like, there's a lot to take in with this book. It's filled with a lot of different psychological terms. However, extremely valuable, and you definitely should be reading this book.
Yeah, it's kind of like the 12 Rules for Life, written by someone who has spent a lot of time studying psychology I don't know if it's a bachelor's or master's in psychology. Tomassi spends a lot of time in that field, and he writes very much in that field. It's going to take about 12 hours to read it, 300 pages, but like Matt's saying, it's going to take time to get through those. The audio's 14 hours, and you're probably going to want to break that up over a period of time. What are the reviews? How well known is this book, Matt?
So, what's a little over 1,600 reviews on Amazon, 4.6 out of 5 stars, so well received. Definitely considered one of the bedrock Manosphere books, and it just sort of has it explains the foundation, because he started writing a blog, and this book comes from a lot of his blog writings, starting just
basically
2001. Yeah. So early 2000s. So that's really what this comes from. Currently number 49 in dating, number 127 in love and romance, number 10 in Audible for general sexual health, and number 13 in Audible for sex and sexuality.
Which is really interesting, considering how many books there are out there for women and sex and relationships and dating, that this book would be under the sex category. And
right.
Rightly so. It belongs there, because especially if you're a guy, if you don't know why you're not having sex, or you don't know why the sex that you're having is not as good as it used to be 3 months ago, or 6 months ago, or a couple of years ago, this book will help you understand why.
Absolutely,
it really will. So you found out. You said you read this book pretty soon after it came out in 2013. How did you first find about the Rational Male, Matt?
No, so I found out about it from the Red Pill subreddit, actually. So on Reddit, and I was just going to look at it now, and I don't know. They have sidebar readings, which is just like, hey, you need to read this stuff to kind of get an understanding of the community. I don't remember if this is on the sidebar or not, but there's been, for whatever reason, recently a falling out with Rollo Tomassi and a lot of the other folks in the Manosphere, but whatever. I don't care about that. But really, it's just it came from there, from my exploration of the Red Pill, and it just has a lot of bedrock information. And I don't know. I think I was the one who told you about this one, right?
You actually gave me the book, and okay. I had heard about it prior to that, and it is, like you said, it's one of those things where as you get into the dating movement, and especially the Red Pill section of the Manosphere, this is a big one. And it was kind of one of those books for me that's like, I'll get to it eventually. I started it like 2 or 3 times, and one time I got, 10 pages in, another time I got like 25 pages in. I'm like, this is work, man. Like, I'm going to sit down sometime when I actually have time to dig into it. And I wouldn't recommend the way that I read it, which was basically over 3 days. Like, I just, put everything else on hold and just dove straight in. And when I came back out of it, I was kind of like, where am I? What's happening right now? Like, it was so intense that the coronavirus was not as uncomfortable as the material in here. True story.
Right.
But it's so good. Let's talk really quick here about the background of Mr. Rollo Tomassi. So he has been, as you were mentioning, Matt, a blogger pretty much since 2001. One of the first and most well-known bloggers of the Manosphere. He has hundreds and hundreds, probably thousands of posts by now. He's written the Rational Male, as well as his follow-up books, Book 2, Preventative Medicine, and Rational Male Book 3, Positive Masculinity. Also created SoSuave.com, forum that still exists. So if you want information about how to get better, especially at those beginning stages with women, that's a good place to look, and we'll link to it here in the show notes. Rollo Tomassi is I didn't realize this until after reading into it. Rollo Tomassi is actually a pseudonym. So that's not the blogger's actual name. I went online and did a search, probably spent maybe an hour or so looking, and I don't have access to the dark web and NSA documents, but
page 2 of Google.
I didn't even I tried like pages 15, 20, 30, nothing.
Wow.
Nothing.
That's the dark web.
Oh no, seriously, like at that point I actually got a little text from the CIA, like, excuse me, what's happening right now?
Right.
The name Rollo Tomassi is a pseudonym taken from the movie L.A. Confidential, and those of you who've watched the movie will know that it's a name that one detective gives to the man that killed his father. He doesn't know the name of this guy. He's been searching for him ever since he was a kid. But we don't know who this person is, so that he used the term Rollo Tomassi as kind of something to kind of give this anonymous man a personality, kind of an evil character. But he killed his dad. Like, this detective's dad was killed by this Rollo Tomassi character. So you wonder if maybe Rollo used that term as this concept of, like, he had to kill the beliefs and worldview of his own father, right? That's what I'm wondering. What we do know about him is that he is 52 years old as of April 2nd. He's been married for 23 years. He has a 21-year-old daughter. He lives in Reno, Nevada, and has greyhounds. And originally, he started writing because his brother-in-law committed suicide, and so did another friend of his back in 2003. Specifically after their wives left them, and after long, seemingly happy marriages, and it just blew his mind. He's like, why? Just like, it just rocked him to his core, and so he's like, I want to try. Specifically, the quote he says is, "These deaths were what moved me to try to help other men more directly."
Right.
But other than that, that's about all the information that we have for Tomassi. But the thing is, it doesn't matter. Like, the material speaks for itself. It could be anybody who's putting this out there, and the truth is that it stands up on its own, and it's been around for close to 20 years, and it's still considered, like you're saying, bedrock material. Matt, let's talk about the book itself. Table of contents and themes in the rational male.
So as Jay and I were going over this, I think one of the better things and I think this will give you kind of an overview of what this book is. He has the iron rules of Tomassi, so the 9 iron rules of Tomassi. This is not encompassing what's in the book, but this should give you a pretty good taste of what's in there. So we'll just kind of go back and forth on what these rules are. So iron rule of Tomassi number 1: frame is everything. Always be aware of the subconscious balance whose frame you are operating. Always control the frame, but resist giving the impression that you are.
Yeah,
number 2, Jay.
Yeah, like be in control, but don't look like you're in control. Iron rule number 2: never, under pain of death, honestly or dishonestly reveal the number of women you've slept with, or explain in any detail your experiences with them in a sexual capacity to a current lover.
Yeah, that's just this bad news. Don't do it. Number 3, any woman who makes you wait for sex or by her actions implies she is making you wait for sex. The sex is never worth the wait. Yeah. Totally true.
Yeah.
That's a power game.
It is. And you can't negotiate desire. She either wants you or she doesn't. And if she wants you, she's going to go after you. And if she doesn't, she won't. So there's no reason to do that. Iron rule number 4: never, all caps, under any circumstances, live with a woman you aren't married to or are not planning to marry within 6 months. That would save millions of relationships if guys did that, because guess what? If you're not going to get married permanently, you're probably going to break up, and when you break up, it's going to be a divorce.
Well, and there's no reason to live together if you're not. So so number 5: never allow a woman to be in control of the birth control. So always take that into your own hands. There's many things that are coming up. You have many options always use them.
Use the options, absolutely. Iron Rule number 6: women are incapable of loving men in a way that a man idealizes is possible, and in a way he thinks she should be capable of. We could write an entire book on this subject.
Right.
The essence of it is there's no such thing as true rest for a man in a successful relationship. You can't let your guard down. Just period. Sooner or later, if you keep doing that, she's gonna lose attraction, and eventually you'll lose the relationship.
Yeah, it's just, and basically the thing is, it's different. The way that men view it, the way that women view it are different, and you don't have the same idea of it. So number 7. It is always time and effort better spent developing new, fresh perspective women than it will ever be in an attempt to reconstruct a failed relationship. Never root through the trash once the garbage has been dragged out to the curb. You get messy, your neighbors see you do it, and what you thought was worth digging for is never as valuable as you thought it was.
It's true. It's just true. Don't do it. Don't do it. Yes, guess what? You're going to get rejected more often than if you go back to an ex, but you broke up for a reason.
Right.
Iron Rule of Tomassi number 8: always let a woman figure out why she won't fuck you. Don't do it for her.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's just generally good. And never self-deprecate under any circumstance. This is a kiss of death that you self-initiate, and is the antithesis of the prize mentality. Once you've accepted yourself and presented yourself as a complete douche, there's no going back.
Yeah. Nothing kills arousal like pity.
Right?
It just
totally true.
It just doesn't work.
All right, so let's go. Now we're going to get into our other part here where we're kind of asking questions here. So, Jay, what did you like best about The Rational Male?
I really liked how just absolutely like a sword to the gut this book was. Philosophical brutality. It's like, this is hypergamy. It's built into every woman on the planet. It's never going to change. Deal with it. No punches pulled. And I love that because it's real and nobody else is saying it. Almost nobody.
Yeah, it is true, and it's hard to find, and it's hard to find it written in a way that doesn't seem like you're bashing on women, because that's not what it is. And that's actually what I appreciate about this, is he's not looking at this going like, oh, women are bad. So, give us a quote or two.
All right, I have 3 because I'm because I'm an overachiever. But don't worry, they're short. Quote number 1: women don't want a man to cheat, but they love a man who could cheat.
Absolutely. Yep.
I think part of the reason why this entire book is so difficult to read, it's not just the verbiage, it's that it tries to describe a lot of the seemingly the statement, the elements of women that don't make sense, and it makes them logical, but they're very uncomfortable, and he kind of narrows it down and puts kind of like gives light to things that don't make sense that are in women, and that's one of them right there. Like, I don't want my man to cheat on me, but I want him to be able to cheat on me whenever, because the fear that gives me makes me feel good. But at the same time, if he cheats, I'm out of here. But I kind of like it when other women look at him. It's very it's wonderful. Another one: women never want full disclosure. Nothing is more satisfying for a woman than to think she's figured out a man based solely on her mythical feminine intuition. If you can give a woman something to think about you, if she doesn't feel like she fully has you figured out, you're in a good space. And then the last one, which is just really should be tattooed on most guys across the planet: rejection is better than regret.
Yep. That goes back to the other one as far as losing or getting back with an ex, right?
Going through the trash.
Yeah, don't go through the trash. Same deal. What did you learn from this book, or how did the book change you?
I think the biggest one is that hypergamy is the only real weapon that a man has against hypergamy is to continuously work to improve himself. And that is never not in play. Because
Right.
hypergamy is built into the DNA of a woman, the man's desire to work, which I believe is within the DNA of men, we like to conquer and accomplish and solve challenges and problems and things like that. That's part of our DNA. If we do not follow that, we will lose the woman sooner or later, one way or another. So that this book really kind of highlighted that, and I really appreciated it.
All right, what's your critique?
It needs a like rational male for dummies version. It's just too verbose. It's too much psychology. It's too much philosophy. Too much sociology. It's good. It's really, really good. It just needs a little bit less.
All right, what would you ask Rollo Tomassi?
Who the fuck are you? Like I'd like your first name and your last name, and then maybe your middle name, and then what the hell? Where'd you come from? Like who are you?
All right.
And I think that would be interesting.
All right, and what are other related or connected books that you'd recommend?
I would say the two Robert Greene classics, first 48 Laws of Power, which we have a good bookcast on. Highly recommend that you go back and check that out if you get a chance to listen. And The Art of Seduction, which I have not read, but I've heard multiple people reference it, and it sounds like it would just be a really interesting book to get into, because it's about power connected to sex, which is a big part of what this book also is like how sex and power go together. All right, so that's me. How about you, Mr. Matthew? What did you like best about The Rational Male?
So what I like is that it's an unabashed description of the sexual dynamics between men and women. So how it works, how to really understand it, and in a way that is not bashing on men and bashing on women. It's I don't know. It's almost as if it was some sort of alien race going and just sort of looking at it from almost an outsider perspective. At least that's the way that it is written. I really like it. It's a good study, and it really lays down a lot of the foundations that, again, the whole idea of the red pill is you're now able to see the world for the way that it really is. Not the way that you want it to be, but just the way that it is.
It's totally true, and I think what really makes it work because you're right, it's not anti-woman in any way, or anti-man. It's not pro-women or pro-man. It's like, this is how men work and this is how women work.
Right.
And the fact that he's married for many years during a lot of the writing of this book, he's not against women. He's married to one.
Right. And not against marriage.
Yeah, and not against marriage either. Long-term relationships, like, this is how it works. How about favorite quote or two?
All right, I got two. You have to unlearn the old behaviors and condition new ones in order to write your course. This takes practice and repetition, even in the face of conditions that you would impulsively think would need to be reacted otherwise. There's no substitute for perseverance. Mm-hmm. So pushing through, making sure you can do it. There was another one, and I don't have it written down here, but basically there's always hard work. Yes. You always have to work, and your goalposts are always going to move. And that's a good thing.
And that's a good thing.
We always need to have something. And
Right.
that's a desired thing. And I'm paraphrasing that quote. But the other quote that I have is, the only way to determine genuine motivation and or intent is to observe the behavior of an individual. So I know that there's, and I have become less so, but I know there's a lot of people who are either they're big talkers, so they usually go well with somebody who's talking, and they just take them at their word for what they say. And I know I have fallen into that rut a few times, and this is definitely something where it's like, no, just look at what they're doing. Look at how they're acting and what they're doing, and look at the totality of it. Don't just go like, oh, well, I love, my kids do this. Oh, this is the best soup I've ever had, and they have like 3 bites. No, it's not. Like you're lying, and stop it. So
it's such a good quote, and it really kind of gets to, you get a good sense of who Tomassi is as a social scientist with that statement,
Right.
Because a lot of us, when we try and understand, especially women, because the way that women behave is very different than the way that men behave, generally speaking, and to look at what she says versus what she does, if you want to go crazy, only pay attention to what you're saying and not what they're doing. So that's it's an amazing book. All right, what did you learn from this book, or how did it change you?
Well, for me, it really goes over what the term hypergamy is. I mean, there's a whole section devoted to it. So I think that it's for me, it was best at explaining that. The other pieces I had read about and I knew mostly about it, but that was the big one for me. Which, if you we don't have enough time to go through it, but
if all you learn about is hypergamy from this book, it's worth the admission there.
Yeah,
absolutely. What did you like least?
So really, I had to ingest this book in very small pieces. I don't even know. I don't think I even read chapters. I mean, it was just a few pages at a time, and then I remember reading this, and then I would sit and reflect on it. So really, and I think that you kind of said it well, which is just it's very convoluted. There's a lot to it. You really have to think when you're reading, which I mean is not a bad thing, but there's really, really good information in it. And I think that some people would be turned off just by how it's written. Yeah,
it was, as I understand it, about 10 years worth of blog articles condensed down, and each blog article spent who knows how many hours constructing each one. So there's a lot of very high level material in every page. So yeah, it's a tough pill to swallow, literally.
Yep.
Literally. What questions would you ask Tomassi?
So I'd be the same. Just I'd be interested in his background and where he's coming, and then recent falling outs with other folks in the Manosphere, but whatever. That's it.
Just get his background. Yeah. I'd love to know that. How about other related or connected books that you'd recommend?
So he talks about shit testing in here and women testing or men, and one of the books that I really like, so it's just a great, easy to read book, is called What Women Want When They Test Men by Bruce Bryans. I would recommend that one for that particular aspect.
Okay. What Women Want When They Test Men by Bruce Bryans. All right. Mm-hmm. So that is our general overview here of The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi. Matt, give me any final thoughts here you want to leave our guys with?
Well, definitely, you guys need to read this book. Even if you go and, pick this book up, look at the table of contents and pick out things that you like. Because, again, like I said, it's a lot of blog articles that are put together. So they're almost, you can read different pieces of the book. You don't have to read it in order per se. You can read them and pull out good chunks of it. So, don't be concerned by like what we're saying, like, oh, it's difficult to read and blah blah blah. Definitely pick this book up and read it. It is fantastic.
It is a challenging book. It is an uncomfortable book. It is not easy to read, and it is worth every page is worth its weight in some sort of shiny metal for sure.
Right.
Spend your money on this book. Add it to your library. Once again, the book, The Rational Male by Rollo Tomassi. Thank you for listening to the Superior Men Bookcast. On behalf of Matt, I am Jay, and we'll see you next time.
A reader lives 1,000 lives before he dies. The man who never reads lives only one. Thank you for listening to the Superior Men Bookcast. Share it with a friend. You heard our thoughts. Go read it for yourself.